Finally, hello. Good morning and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes and it is Monday the 14th of April 2024. Sorry, my mic wasn't working. I just spent the last 5 minutes trying to get the mic to work. But now the mic works, so I hope you can hear me. I also hope you can see me. I'm away at the moment. I'm not in my usual place, so that's why it took so long to get started. I'm so sorry for keeping you waiting for 7 minutes there. I'll do 7 minutes extra at the end of the show, just for you. Big shout out to Leapshin and Diz in the chat, also Gwyneth in there, and Paul and Colin, and Kate and Veg Pie. Hello, Veg Pie. We've got SG in there as well, Billy Kershaw, and the usual crowd. But if you'd like to join them, all you need to do is hit on that little subscribe button under the video and you can join in the chat live here on Politics Social. Today we're going to be talking about privatisation, and we're going to be talking about, first of all, British Steel, the disaster that was British Steel. Then we're going to be talking about the disaster that was privatising the water, the disaster that was privatising the rail, the disaster that was privatising the Royal Mail, the disaster that was the deregulation of buses in the 1980s for everywhere that wasn't London. So let's get into it, hey? Let's get into how the Tories basically destroyed our country. Because that's what they do. They just destroy things. They don't know how to make things. They take something that's working okay, and then they make it so it's not working okay, and then they say, oh, the only way to make this work okay is by putting private people in charge of it, and then they get a job on the board. So the immediate crisis that we're facing at the moment is at British Steel's Scunthorpe plant, and it's facing it faced immediate shutdown under the Jingyi group when they halted raw material orders. Two blast furnaces called Bess and Bess and Anne are vital to the UK's domestic virgin steel production. So there are some other arc furnaces, but they can only make scrap metal. Okay, so they can take already made steel and make more steel out of it. They can't take the ore, the iron ore, and actually make steel out of it, or and other materials. Rosie, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. That's really, really kind of you. That's really nice. Thank you so much. I'm going to give the little super chat animation. Sorry, I'm working on my laptop down here, which is on a rickety table that could actually break. The leg is broken on it, so there's a chance that halfway through this live cast, all my stuff might fall off, and I don't know what's going to happen at that point. But I'm trying very hard not to touch the table too much because it is very, very rickety. So yes, thank you very much to Rosie for the £5 super chat. I might put a goal in. Should we do a goal? Should we do 10 super chats? Any colour, and then we'll set a timer for what do you reckon? 45 minutes. 45 minutes. I'll celebrate by enjoying my holiday. No, that's a kind of joke. I'm not just gonna leave. I'm just gonna leave if I get the goal. But there you go. There's a goal. There's 10 super chats. Welcome to Superstar Scott. Welcome new members. New member, but my animation says new members. Don't worry about it. Scott, thank you very much for joining the channel. That's very kind of you. If anyone else wants to join the channel, just hit the join button. Anyway, back to steel. If I can find my notes. Here we go. So, without coking coal and iron ore, blast furnaces cool. And what this does is it makes the restart process prohibitively expensive or even impossible. And Jingyi was reportedly selling off remaining supplies of steel and preparing what they call a salamander tap, which is drilling into the furnace to remove molten iron and shut it down. This promoted fears of industrial sabotage. Thank you very much, Alistair. Alistair in there with a £1 super chat. Thank you, sir. That's very, very kind of you. I will give you a super chat animation in a moment. It's a lot easier when I'm at home. I've got a little box that I should have brought my little box with me so I could just press the buttons on the box. There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alistair. That's very kind of you. Right, back to where I was somewhere. So, Jingyi claimed the plant was losing £700,000 a day and refused UK government aid unless it offered more than $1 billion with no guarantees of continued UK production. They planned to keep 4 steel mills running, importing steel from China, essentially turning Scunthorpe into a Chinese distribution hub rather than a manufacturing centre. The thing is, thank you very much, Rosie, before I go on. Oh, wow, it's coming in thick and fast. Thank you, Rosie, and thank you, Graham, for the super chats there. It's very kind of you. I'm just going to press the button for super chat, and then we'll sit here for a little bit, do a little dance, and then we'll do it again for Graham. Thank you, super chat. Woo! I hope no one gives a massive super chat today. Well, I do, but like if someone gives a mega chat or an ultra chat, I don't have the animation at hand. Oh god, there we go. Alistair and Plumbed Up. Oh my god, together you've given a mega chat. Okay, Alistair, thank you very much. So much, thank you. Go and have some drinks for you and your family today. Oh, thank you. That's so kind of you, Alistair. 20 quid. I'm from Plumduff, 30 quid. To celebrate Colin's daughter's wedding this weekend. Love from us all. Oh, thank you so much, Plumduff. That is so generous. Thank you. I think we're going to get to our goal faster than I thought we would. Thank you so much. And big thank you to Francis as well. Thank you. Just £2 super chat. Thank you. Oh, everyone's been really nice today. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm really sorry for keeping you all waiting. I feel really bad about that. But yeah, it's very frustrating when your mic's not working. It's the last thing I check. Literally, I queue everything up. I queue up the intro sequence. And just before I press go live, I check my mic. I do like 1, 2 into my mic, and I could see there was nothing. There were no, the levels were bouncing, and I was like, so yeah, but I have got I look like I'm in a cupboard, don't I? I'm in the wardrobe. I'm so far in the closet, I'm in Narnia, as they say. But yeah, I'm in the corner of our room. Anyway, so let's move on. So yes, why this matters, right, is there's 2,700 jobs, a direct risk in Scunthorpe, plus the knock-on effects through the supply chain, like. The British government want to do Great British Rail. They want to do Great British Energy. That means more lines. It means more rails. It means more steel. The building programme, they want to be building 1 million houses in the next few years. That's going to require steel. And not having domestic steel production isn't good for our national security. There's also weapons as well. Makes it more difficult to make weapons. And obviously we have pushed up our defence budget thanks to bloody Putin and bloody Trump, which means that we've taken money away from foreign aid and stuff like that, which I think is an absolute disgrace. And I hate that we're in this situation, but we are in this situation, and I understand why we have to do what is being done at the moment. Network Rail relies on this plant for 95% of its steel needs, and if the furnaces shut down, the UK permanently loses a core part of its industrial base. This is why it was so important to have an emergency debate to get this going, because once those blast furnaces shut down, you can't get them started again. I used to have a Fiesta that was a bit like that. You used to have to push it, like, you used to have to push start. You have to, like, find a hill. Do you ever drive a car where you couldn't stop? Where, like, you'd see the red light ahead of you and you'd have to slow down really, really slow and hope that it would change before you got... Because if you stopped the car, you couldn't... Yeah, it's a bit like that, only on a much bigger scale. Thank you much to Colin Baker, and congratulations on your daughter's wedding this week, and love from me and everyone. Thank you very much to Colin there. My favourite Doctor. You know, we can't all love David Tennant, can we? Thank you. So some heroes there in the super chat, says Scott. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, super chat heroes. Maybe that's what it should say. Maybe I'll make a new animation that goes heroes and it comes up. You're keeping us afloat. Thank you. The other side of this is there's a sort of Machiavellian side of it that I think, like, I mean, this is what I would do because I'm evil, right? Well, I'm not evil, but I have evil thoughts. Do you know what I mean? I just don't act on them. So if I was China, right, and China sees all these other countries as a threat to them, you know, defense, but also in capitalism. I mean, obviously they pretend to be communist, they're not. But one of the things that I would do, right, is I would, if a country was foolish enough to nationalize its industries, right, I would take over those industries and I'd wind them down, because then it's less competition for us, innit? So the plan was by the looks of things, to turn Scunthorpe into a distribution hub for Chinese steel. So we'd be completely dependent on steel coming from China. More money for China. Ka-ching for China. See what I did there? Yeah. What do you think? What do you think? Would you do that if you were government and you were like trying to screw over another country so they could sell stuff? Of course you would. We did that. Britain did that all over the world. Britain did that literal thing of going around the world, disrupting local supply chains and causing havoc. I mean, the best example being China, where we went over there and we had a couple of opium wars because they wouldn't sell our smack. This is the actual thing that actually really happened in real life. Opium was something that the Chinese didn't want, and they wouldn't buy it. They had a law against it, and Britain went there, and we bombed the shit out of, well, we shelled the shit out of Shanghai. We shelled the shit out of Shanghai, and we burned down the Summer Palace. We burned down the Royal Summer Palace like a bunch of dickheads. Imagine the Chinese coming over here and burning down Blenheim Palace. Or like Windsor Castle, just going and burn it. Oh, remember that fire in Windsor Castle? Yeah, that was the Chinese. Oh, what did they do that for? Well, you see, we weren't buying their drugs, you see, at a sufficient quantity. So they decided that it was best that they just burnt down one of our palaces. And we got Hong Kong out the deal. We got Hong Kong out the Opium Wars when we were the biggest drug dealer in the world, literally. So you can see why China might have some historical reasons for wanting to screw us over, but also like just practical reasons. If you're going to be that stupid, if you're going to be that idiotic that you're going to nationalise such an important industry and then allow it to all be wound down, I mean, just what? The other big plant in Port Talbot, they've shut down their blast furnaces. They've only got electric arc furnaces now, which led to a lot of shedding of British jobs. But who owns that? Tata, which are Indian. Again, I could give you stories about what the British Empire did in India. I could see why they've got some historical justification for wanting to screw us over if we're stupid enough to, bend over and demand they kick us up the arse. It's just fucking, it's like, oh, I did kick him up the arse. Yes, probably. Anyway, so, oh, wow, thank you. I missed the super chat there. Thank you. That's from Zantis. How do we pronounce this correctly? I can just say Amy. Zantuskun Amy. Is that Amy? Thank you, Amy. You're very kind of you. For speaking up for those who can't. Oh, thank you. That's really kind of you, Amy. I really appreciate that. Even though I probably didn't pronounce your first name correctly. But like I say, Amy, we can get there. But thank you very much. Okay, so next part of this, if I can find my notes again. It's very hard doing this with one screen. Like normally I have two screens, so I can see your messages, and I can see my notes, and I can see that the feed's working, and I can see the monitor from my cam. I can't do that at the moment. Anyway, so the government's response. Let's have a look. Talk about the government's response. So emergency powers and last-minute legislation. You saw this weekend, Parliament sat at the weekend to push through legislation granting emergency control of the site. The police were dispatched to prevent any actions that might permanently disable the furnaces. This is what happened on Saturday. Like the police properly turned up, and the Changi execs turned up. The Changi, what are they called? Changi. Yeah, it's Chingy. Sorry, it's Chingy. Execs turned up, or the people turned up from the company, and they weren't allowed in by the police because they were like, no, because they were scared they were going to drill a hole in the blast furnace and render it inoperable, like sabotage it, Police were dispatched. The government confirmed that raw materials, coconut ore, were already in the UK and were being rushed to the site from the Immingham terminal on the east coast. Labour Minister Johnny Reynolds didn't directly accuse Chingy of sabotage, but admitted there were reasonable concerns that they were trying to deliberately shut down the furnaces before ministers could intervene. GMB union sources feared, they didn't call it this, but they feared industrial sabotage, industrial vandalism, and Christopher Chope, him, he accused Chingy of economic sabotage on behalf of Chinese state interests. I feel like I'm in agreement with Christopher Chope. I think I need a bath now. I feel dirty. I'm going to have to brush my teeth. Hang on. I've got my little brush. I've got my little Clean myself up. Oh, God, I'll never be clean again. I'll never be clean. The move echoes wider fears of Chinese involvement in critical infrastructure, including nuclear power, telecoms, and wind energy, harking back to the panic that the last government, the Tory government, had over Huawei running the 5G rollout, which they then discovered they shouldn't really be doing that because of Chinese state interests. So, will it work? We don't know. Johnny Reynolds was on Laura Kunsberg yesterday with the foghorn of ignorance, what's his name, Nigel fucking Farage, and a Tory. You know, nice balanced debate there. We had a Labour person, and then we had a Tory person and a Nazi. Great. Balance, BBC, balance. Look at the BBC balancing on a surfboard there. Just balance. Look at all the balance they've got. Anyway, Laura Kunsberg, privately educated, was interviewing Jonathan Reynolds, not privately educated. He's from up the road. He's from Sunderland, a lad. He was on the what's it called? He was on the Laura Kunsberg show, and obviously he was the person who started the debate on Saturday. He's the person who had to call it all back in. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, he didn't accuse Chingy of industrial sabotage, but read between the lines, folks. You know, this you can't start a company in China without permission from the government, and that if it's a big enough company, there will be someone from the Chinese government who's always on the board of directors or the top brass of your company, keeping an eye on things for the Chinese state. So anyway, yeah, will it work? Well, we hope so. Johnny Reynolds yesterday wouldn't say whether it would work or not. He didn't make that clear. He kind of dodged the question a little bit, and I understand why he dodged the question, because well, it's okay for someone from a union or something else to say, yeah, it'll definitely work. It would be really bad if he said, yeah, it's definitely going to work, and then it didn't work. But the thing is, furnace shutdowns are complex. Once they cool, they crack internally. Attempting to reverse a salamander tap is high risk, costly, and has no guarantee of success. Even if raw materials arrive in time, it may still, because I don't know what's been done. It's not been released what has been done to these furnaces, but if they have started with the salamander tap, maybe. I don't think they have, but if they have, it will require months and hundreds of millions of pounds worth of repairs. So yeah, this is the world in which we have inherited from the Tories. You know, a world in which all these things that shouldn't be run by private companies are run by private companies, and it's why one of the reasons why everything's so shit at the moment. But it's also one of the reasons why things could get better under national ownership. A lot better. The NHS is nationally owned. I know there's some voices on the right that really want to privatise it, but it is nationally owned. It's nationally run. And whether it's run by government or whether it's run by a quango like NHS England, I mean, up till 2010, before NHS England existed, we were doing a great job with the NHS. A really, really good job. And then it was sabotaged on purpose by the Chinese government. Sorry, though, the British government. Sorry. I get those two things mixed up sometimes. You know, there's this like hostile government that seems to want to destroy our way of life. And then there's the Chinese government. Yeah. So anyway, the Tory government went ahead and started defunding the NHS, messing it up and putting layers of bureaucracy in there because they knew that would mess things up, running from the CIA handbook that came out after World War II, of how to, get into state businesses in case they got taken over by the Nazis or something, and disrupt them from within by just having tedious meetings about nothing and going on about stuff that's already been resolved and talking about minutiae and just talking really, really slowly until everyone just gets bored and leaves. So, how did we get here? Well, Thatcher, 1979. She started as Prime Minister, and from then on in, it was a bit of a downhill journey, but not in a good kind of way. In a kind of downhill journey that knackers your brakes or knackers your legs from walking downhill. She privatised gas and electricity in the 80s, along with British Telecom famously. Markets were unbundled for generation and transmission and supply. 5 firms now dominate 70% of the retail market in energy and gas and electricity. Over 30 energy suppliers collapsed since 2021, costing consumers £2.7 billion. I'll say that again, £2.7 billion. Centrica, British Gas, made record profits with 60% margins, while 3 million Brits live in fuel poverty. But it's okay, they made record profits, you know. UK electricity it costs are amongst the highest in the developed world, despite leading on renewables. So we've got some of the biggest wind farms, wind turbine sites offshore in the world. We're one of the windiest countries in the world. We have that resource that we can tap into, and we have done to an incredible degree. And yet, we're still paying over the odds for our electricity. And Katrina Tam, thank you very much. Here's a contribution towards the target. Oh, thank you, Katrina. That's really kind of you. Katrina's just dropped a couple of quid in there. That's really cool. Ian McKenna dropped another couple of quid in, which is really nice of him. Thank you. I think we've achieved our target. Hey, I'm going to enjoy my holiday now. Ian, thank you so much for that, mate. That's really kind of you. Ian says, politics is shit. You are right. Yes, that's why I hate it. Don't want to be talking about it. Don't want to be talking about travel. I want to talk about traveling the world, going places, meeting people, meeting new people. That's what I want to do. Don't want to do politics. Well, here we are. Anyway, thank you very much to David Coombs as well for that very kind super chat, which is just a super chat. Thank you. Thank you, David. So anyway, back to the main issue. Right, so that was energy. Gas still sets the price 98% of the time, despite renewables now generating most of our electricity. The overwhelming majority of our electricity is made by renewables, and yet we are still paying the gas price. Why? Because the infrastructure and storage facilities for renewables were never built, and the private sector was given no incentive by the Tory government to build them. And the UK is now absurdly reliant on expensive imported gas. So we don't have our own gas supplies in this country pretty much anymore. And the Tories' response to this, if you saw the debate on Saturday, was we should frack. We should frack. I think it was Ian Duncan Donut said this. We should frack for gas. And I'm like, frack off, mate. No, we shouldn't. No, we shouldn't. We should be weaning ourselves off gas because we've got unlimited free energy that comes from the wind or solar, and it's transmitted at the speed of light into your car. Come on. Or to power your house. Turn the lights on so people can see you when you're doing your videos. So yeah, that's energy. Absolutely ridiculous. Water. Oh my God, don't get me started. Sewage, profits, debt. Water companies were debt-free at the time of privatisation in 1989. Now they hold £60 billion, billion with a B, in debt. The debt financed dividends and tax breaks, not infrastructure. In fact, since 1989, do you know how many new reservoirs have been built for our growing population? None. A big fat duck egg. A big load of fuck all. Not one. 35 have been decommissioned though. 35 they've been gotten rid of for money. They sold them off probably for profit. Well, absolutely for profit. Why would they do it any otherwise? These companies have paid out over 52 billion, water companies, in dividends. In dividends since 1990. That works out to about 78 billion in today's money. 78 billion pounds that we could have had as British taxpayers, and it could have been spent on infrastructure, could have been spent on more reservoirs, could have been fixed leaky pipes, could have been spent on sewage works so we're not dumping millions of tons of shit into our waterways. My God. my God. 3.6 million hours of raw sewage was dumped in rivers in 2023 alone. 3.6 million hours worth of raw sewage coming out of a big fat pipe. Thames Water alone holds 16 billion in debt and nearly collapsed last year. Macquarie made billions while letting it rot. And up to this point, the government is still kind of a bit hesitant towards going towards nationalisation because there's a few factors in this. And I think this is bullshit, but here we go. First of all, they'll get sued by the companies who own these things. Secondly, they get saddled with the debt that these companies have, which I've just said is billions. And then finally, we've got the issue that if we do let these companies go to the wall, then a lot of pension funds are tied into investments in these companies. And so pensioners might see their private pension fall. Not just here, but in places like Canada and stuff. It seems crazy to me, but there you go. Tories blocked a battery bank at wind farms in Scotland. Scottish government could not do anything as it's about energy waste monster remit from Alistair. That is disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting. I mean, the good news is about storage, not for gas, because obviously gas storage that's not going to happen now, I don't think. I love arguing people that are not what are they called, odometers. What are they called? They're not called that, are they? That's what you got in the car that tells you how far you've gone. Let's just say a gas storage facility. People don't believe you that they go up and down. It's really funny. I think I took a mate to a pub that overlooked one of these things years ago, just so we could sit there all afternoon and watch it going up and down. Because we're like, they go up and down. It's too big. That can't go up and down. I'm like, it goes up and down. It's full of gas. You can't have gas and air. You can't just put gas into a big empty warehouse and expect it to be fine. You know, so it goes up and down depending on how much gas it's got inside it. I mean, mate was like, nah, you're talking bollocks, Graham. Look at the size of that thing. I'm like, they go up and down. I've never seen it go up. And because it does it really slowly, it's hard to measure. But we did. Over a few pints. That was fun. Anyway, sorry, I don't know how to talk about gas works. But yeah, with the battery thing, I mean, this idea, and I've said this before, that was mooted by the guy from Octopus Energy, where he said if enough people have cars, so we've got like 40 million cars on the road at the moment in this country. So if we all those cars are electric, which they will be in 20 years' time, you can use those. They're 40 million batteries. They're 40 million big off batteries, so you can use them to shift the power around the grid when things are plugged in, because obviously electricity can come in and come out. Once it goes into a battery, doesn't mean it's stuck there forever. It can come back out again. So that's cool. So you get paid at certain times, or maybe you just fill up your car for free energy, literally free energy. You fill the car up. Can we have some of that back? Yeah, okay, can you have some of that back? Hey, it doesn't cost me anything now. Anyway, gasometers have water in the base. I wonder why. I gather the water company set up a separate company and piled in money to that company, which allowed them to circumvent that sort of issue. A total racket. It is a total racket. There was a great speech made by Clive Lewis, who I really love this guy. He's a really good Labour MP. He's funny as well. And he was making a big speech about the water companies and just saying we've got to screw them. We've got to screw them. That we've got to give them like 3 strikes and you're out, and then that's it. And we've got to screw them for every penny, because they've destroyed our waterways, and they've driven up water bills, and they expect the people using the water to pay for their mistakes. Pay for the mistakes of the companies. Well, not mistakes, the greed. They want Thames Water customers to pay for the greed of this private company that runs this for-profit monopoly. Then we've got Royal Mail, 500-year-old postal service sold for peanuts. It was privatised in 2013. Hasn't turned a proper profit since. It had a £110 million loss last year. First class post was late nearly 25% of the time. Complaints and payouts to customers are at record highs. They're now facing foreign takeover. I think that went through, didn't it, by that billionaire Daniel Krasinski from the Czech Republic, I think. Still has a universal service obligation, which is to make sure that post letters get to the Outer Hebrides and the Orkneys and stuff. But it's increasingly failing to meet this obligation. Rail, an absolute rolling disaster. Even Thatcher thought that it was a privatisation too far to privatise British Rail. John Major went ahead with it in 1993. Rail was fragmented into operators, rolling stock, maintenance were all privatised. £1.5 billion a year leaks out the system to private contractors. Fares were 8% higher in real terms than before privatisation. And the RMT claimed that if rail was renationalised today, we could cut fares by 18%. So when I said the maintenance was all privatised, well, that was until there was a series of major rail disasters. There were like 4 of them: Clapham, Ladbroke Grove, and they resulted in Network Rail being created as a public entity. So now the maintenance of the tracks is Network Rail, which is we pick up the tab on that. We do. We British taxpayers, we pay for that. Okay, so this is where you have the old thing of them privatising the profits, socialising the losses. Privatising the profits, socialising the losses. This happens all the time. This happened, obviously it happened at the railways, but obviously it happened with the banks as well and the credit crunch. It happened in America with the big auto firms when GM, Chrysler, Ford went before Congress and said, can we have some more money, please, because we're going broke. And so the American taxpayer had to bail them out. We had to bail out the Bank of Scotland. It was too late for BlackRock, but BlackRock, wasn't it? Bank, but oh my God. Passengers on the trains endure constant strikes, poor service, and mass ticket office closures. And then we've got the other thing that's close to my heart, because obviously I travelled around the world, to every country in the world, on public transport. Yeah, talk to me about public transport. It's the one thing that I feel like I might be a little bit of an expert in. I've got imposter syndrome, so I don't think I know enough about anything in particular. But when it comes to public transport, I've experienced public transport in literally every country in the world to some extent or another. And yeah, our public transport is shite, because at least in Africa, when you're stuck into a set class taxi going across Guinea through the jungle, and it takes 2 days instead of 12 hours, and you're sharing the front seat with another guy, and you've got one butt cheek on the handbrake, and it keeps breaking down, and they keep fixing it at the side of the road in increasingly ingenious ways, like something out of MacGyver. At least that only cost a couple of dollars. Why am I paying £184 to get to London and back from Durham? And then the train's late, or there's nowhere to sit. Why? Why is that a thing? How is that a thing? How in the world of the crazy world of Arthur Brown is that a thing? I have no idea. Anyway, local public transport, bus regulation disaster. 1986, the Transport Act deregulated all buses outside of London. So while London now has one of the best and most integrated public transport systems in the world, and I know, I've seen a few, the rest of us have been left to suffer. It removed control of routes, fares, and quality from local authorities, encouraged competition, but now only 5 operators control 70% of the market. So much for competition. Now, these rules were made up by dickheads, scumbags who never actually got into a bus. You know, that these people, these privately educated Tory boarding school wankers, they'd never been on a bus. They didn't know what a bus did, or how it worked, or where it went, or anything. They imagined that it would be non-stop on the buses, like 3 will come at once, and you just choose which bus to get on, depending on, what had the best facilities on board, which had tea-making facilities, or maybe a little hostess with a tray. No, that's not what happened. What happened was, you ended up having to buy a pass for one particular bus company, so you buy a pass for Stagecoach, but then an Arriva bus would turn up, and you're standing there in the rain at a bus stop that doesn't have a shelter, and you'd have to let that bus go past or get on it and pay £2.50 because your bus pass wouldn't work on that bus. So you'd have to stand there in the cold, in the rain, for another 20 minutes. And this is what really winds me up about the attitude towards pedestrians. Because, yes, cyclists do my nut in. Yes. The people say, oh, I don't like cyclists. Why? Because you have to go past them. I don't have a problem with cyclists when I'm in my car. I think that's fair enough, because I see them as fellow road users. And yeah, they're going slower than me. I could be stuck behind a tractor. I could be stuck behind a learner driver. It's fine. You know what? At the end of the day, unless you're rushing to get to hospital in an ambulance, in which case you would have the lights on, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. You need to just calm down. No, I have a problem with cyclists when I'm a pedestrian, because they have decided that their cycle lanes are just for cycles. And if anyone stands in their cycle lane, they will crash into them, because that's the way they have to do things. Which is exactly the same attitude that motorists have towards bloody cyclists. Oh, well, you know, they shouldn't be on the road. I hate them. Do you see that? So as a pedestrian, most of the time, I don't own my own car. I've got a bike. I do have a bike. Catherine was generous enough to buy me a bike for my birthday a few years ago. But I live in a very hilly part of Durham, so it's not like I can really take it to the pub or anything. Probably would be a bit dangerous. Plus, I live in an area where there's no pavements a lot of the time. Never mind cycle lanes. So being on a bicycle is incredibly dangerous on these little country roads with their blind corners and what they called it when the blind summits of the hills. And one track roads and single track roads, and yeah, you're allowed to go 60 miles an hour. Great. Health and safety. You know, if you're walking along a mixed use path and there's a cyclist, no, don't bomb along. Don't bomb along. This is not a velodrome. Go and cycle around the velodrome. Pay some money, cyclists, and go and razz around the velodrome if that's what you want to do. If you are on a mixed path, right, and you're coming along on your bike and you're ringing your bell, right, like a dickhead, to get people out the way so you don't have to slow down, so you don't have to stop. Just imagine if that person who's got their back to you and is walking the other way is deaf. What are you going to do then, eh? And then you're like, oh, whoa, you didn't get out the way, blah, 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 as people often do to my girlfriend who is deaf. So cyclists, wind your neck in. Motorists, totally wind your neck in. But like, you know, pedestrians, I'm with you. I'm with the pedestrians. I think jaywalking laws are disgusting. I think that the fact that we build our houses and our structures and our cities and our life and our infrastructure all around the car. It's why in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, when Ford Prefect first came to Earth, he called himself Ford Prefect and tried to shake hands with a car because he looked at the layout of everything in Earth and thought, well, everything here on this planet is in service of the car. Cars must not stop. Instead of just having a junction where people can cross and people can push babies in prams. No, we can't have a junction. We've got to have a big whirly-curly bloody concrete mess that takes up 17 acres because the cars must not stop. I'm like, did you know what? It'd be quicker to have a roundabout. Just put a roundabout in. How about you put a roundabout in there, right? And the cars will get through faster because they don't have to drive an extra 2 miles around the bloody whirly-curly thing because the cars can't stop. The cars can't. We've got to have no traffic lights on the motorways. No traffic lights on the motorways. Ah! It's like, it's insane. It is absolutely insane the way that we run our lives, especially in the 20th century. That after the war, I think all the architects and all the town planners lost their minds, right? This is my own pet theory on it. I think they lost their mind, and they built everything around the car, the physique of the car, the magnificence of the car, the ergonomics of a car, and they imagined in Liverpool that there would be a motorway that would come all the way into the city centre. They were going to knock down all these beautiful Georgian townhouses. You know the ones you get in Belgravia? Yeah, they were going to knock all of them down in order to build a big concrete road for the cars, because the cars must not stop ever, ever, ever. And then the pedestrians in the city centre were going to walk around in what they called the city in the sky, which was a series of walkways that kept you one level above the road. So you didn't have to bother the road users, because the people in the car, they're the most important thing. No. Someone in a car is A, sitting down, B, perfectly comfortable, C, possibly listening to the radio. Okay? That's what you've got to understand. They are sitting down, they are perfectly comfortable. They are not freezing their arse off. They're not getting wet in the rain. They're not getting baked by the sun. They're not getting burnt by the sun. The pedestrians are. So if you make the pedestrians walk an extra half a mile down the road to cross the fucking road, do you see the problem there? Do you see the problem? No, just put a pedestrian crossing in. Oh no, we can't do that. We can't do that. It's an A road. Yes, you can. Just put a pedestrian crossing in. Put a sign up saying crossing, slow down. Have signs up saying slow down. And then you get these nutters going, why am I able to drive at 20 miles an hour in this built up area? I'm like, good. You should drive at 10 miles an hour. If you don't like it, make it 5 miles an hour. I don't care. Slow down. Stop killing people. Stop being so arrogant. Stop thinking that you own the road. It's the annoying thing about road users. They're like, I pay my road tax. I'm like, you think that pays for all this? Are you kidding me? People who just don't have a car end up spending more of their income on other people's facilities for their car. But back to public transport, why should I have to wait an extra half an hour for the next bus to come? Because it's been privatised and I couldn't get on the bus that came because it's a different company? Why isn't it all one company? Like in London, where you get one ticket, one Oyster card, you just use your card, you use your phone, and you can get on every single form of transport in the city. That's buses, trams, trains, underground, and boats. And the fucking cable car, I think. I mean, come on. Andrew, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Tories are legalised mafia implementing various forms of protection bribery to finance private schools and top jobs to continue its nepotism and control. I have to say, mate, I absolutely agree with you. You're absolutely correct. That's exactly what they're doing. They run the place like a fucking mafia. But yeah, back to buses. So it means an inconvenience to pedestrians who are the people who use buses. You don't drive your car into a bus. And this meant that London, above and beyond everything, managed to make this amazing bus service, train service, everything. And everywhere else was just plunged into this kind of capitalist nightmare of, we need to make things as cheap as possible and we need to sell them for as much as possible and we need to take that profit and spend it all on yachts. Which is why America is freaking out right now and going, everything's moved to China. Yeah, mate, that's because of your capitalism. That's because your companies, your American companies that were building stuff went, it's costing too much to build this stuff in this country and we don't want to pay those wages to people who are working here. So we'll pay the minimum amount we can. We'll charge the maximum. We'll make things for the cheapest because we need to maximize those profits. All that matters are profits. Profits. And now we've got Americans whinging about it. It's your capitalist system, mate. It's your capitalism that made it this way. Old-fashioned fascism will take it away, apparently. It will, actually. I shouldn't even joke about that. Like I said, only 5% of operators now control... Sorry, only 5 operators own 70% of public transport in the UK. No cross-subsidy means unprofitable routes have been abandoned in the evenings in rural areas. So where I live in Durham, even though I don't live that far from the city centre, there is no bus on a Sunday. I have to walk a mile to get to a bus stop where there is actually a bus on a Sunday. It also means the local monopolies have emerged and new entrants are crushed in these bus wars. So what happens is when another bus company starts, like Fairway or whoever, the people who are running those buses have to, they set their price at a bit of a lower level than the Stagecoach and the Avivas and the established ones. And then what Stagecoach and Aviva do, they knock the price down of their buses to knacker the other company, so people aren't getting the other company's bus, and as a result of that, the other company goes bankrupt. So it stops small companies coming in. Virgin Cola. Okay, I know it's going to sound like a mad tangent. I know you love it when I do this. You just go, random thing. Hello, I'm Graham Hughes. Here's a random thing. Virgin Cola, 1990s. Virgin Cola came on the market and people quite liked it. I don't know why, it wasn't that nice, but it was cheaper. It was cheaper than Coca-Cola, it was cheaper than Pepsi, and they saw their market share going down. And so what Coca-Cola and Pepsi did together, allegedly, perhaps, maybe, I'm not saying this is what actually happened, this is just a theory about what actually happened. Pepsi and Coca-Cola, the two oldest rivals in the world, maybe Man City, Man United, I don't know. They got together and they cut the price of their cans of fizzy sugar drink, right? So at the time, I don't remember this, in the mid-90s, like a can of Coke was like 15p. Like, the price of Coke and Pepsi just absolutely plummeted. They got together and they went, let's price these bastards out of the market. And so Virgin Cola died a death. The only place you could get Virgin Cola was at Virgin Cinemas, which don't exist anymore. But yeah, you couldn't get it in the shops after that because Coca-Cola and Pepsi Cola teamed up to take the competition down. This plucky upstart, now started by Richard Branson, privately educated, of course, because obviously, you know, he's a self-made man, except for all the money he had when he started. Anyway, so yeah, great. So that happened. So that happens with the buses. That happens with the buses all the time, all over the country. And it's why there's no evening services, no Sunday services. And it's why you don't get... I would like a minibus, right? I would like a minibus that comes every 10 minutes into my village in Durham, that goes to a few villages and goes to town. It takes 25 minutes, 30 minutes maybe to get into town. It takes 10 minutes in the car, so obviously you've got to stop and you've got to go around places. But do it. Minibuses. We don't need a double-decker bus. There's a giant, big double-decker bus that goes past my house in Durham every 20 minutes. And I'm like, what's the bloody point of that? Just send a smaller bus more often. I mean, it's always empty. Like, you know, just... But they could just burn money. They don't care. They're not burning money because they're burning subsidies because they get, you know, they get help. They go, oh, this isn't working. Oh, we might need a little bit of support here. And they seem to get help all the time, even though they're not supposed to get any help. It's supposed to be, you know, sink or swim. But we end up, you know, doing this sort of thing. Oh, thank you very much. Paul says, have a random thing bonus super chat. Oh, that's very, very kind of you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anyway, so, yeah, so no unprofitable routes are abandoned, which wouldn't happen under nationalisation because you would use the profitable routes to subsidise the unprofitable routes. But because it's privatised, they're just looking for the profit. They're not interested. And it means that there's a load of people in this country who are under house arrest. They're stuck in their homes. They can't leave. They can't leave their homes because they can't get out because there's no bus services. Maybe they've got a sore hip or they need a knee replacement or something, right? They can't walk very far. They don't have a car. How are they supposed to go anywhere? They can't. They stay at home. Stay on the internet. Consume. Really, really unhealthy. Really, really unhealthy system in so many ways. Service quality has fallen, fares have risen, and air quality has worsened due to overbussing, where you've got multiple companies running the same profitable routes, like the Manchester Student Corridor and Oxford Street in Oxford Road in Manchester. Deregulated buses often compete with other public transport rather than try and integrate with it. And London, which kept regulated franchising, has the best network, the lowest fares, and the highest ridership of anywhere in the UK. And then you've got Nottingham, a municipal bus company, city run. It introduced a workplace parking levy used to fund expanded servicing. They protected bus lanes, affordable tickets, and integrated trams. And it's one of the only cities where bus use is stable, whereas everywhere else it's collapsing. In Manchester, under Andy Burnham, they've taken away this deregulation. They've brought in regulation for the buses again, which has been a great step forward. And they're looking to do that in the Merseyside area under Steve Rotherham as well. Thank God. So that's going in the right direction. But I just wanted to talk about it because it just shows how, first of all, privatisation is a terrible, terrible idea, and it doesn't work for public services, especially ones that are natural monopolies or ones that have to run at a loss because they need to service certain areas, like the trains used to in the 1960s, before they all got ripped up by a Tory transport minister who happened to be the co-owner of one of the country's biggest motorway building companies. And they blame Beeching. Oh, the Beeching Act. Ah! It wasn't him. It was Ernest Marples, Tory minister, ripped all those train lines up. For profit! Why do they do all this crazy shit? For profit! So yeah, things are getting better under Labour. We're seeing the rail networks, all of the franchises are being nationalised as the date of the franchise expires. They are getting nationalised. And we're probably going to see water nationalised. We're probably going to see buses re-regulated all over the country one by one. Possibly not in Lincolnshire because Andrea Jenkins is going to be in charge of Lincolnshire in a few weeks. God, that's depressing. Andrea Jenkins is running for mayor of Lincolnshire. Yeah, she'll probably win because she's a nightmare. And she's running for refuck as well. Anyway, so yeah, privatisation was never, ever about efficiency. It was about extracting value, weakening unions, and handing public assets to corporate cronies. Scunthorpe is a perfect case study. It's got a foreign owner, cash extraction, service collapse, emergency renationalisation. Same pattern across rail, water, energy, buses. We need democratic public ownership, not just for equity, but for the survival of these industries. They need to be nationalised. We need to run them for us, for ourselves. Because what happens if we privatise them? You get these foreign companies which might have a foreign adversary government in the midst of them who are like, hey, yes, we'll take that deal. We'll take that contract to do that thing that you should really do yourselves. But yeah, and we'll just mess it up. We'll just sabotage it. Why not? And that's when, you're thinking, why was Huawei brought in to roll out 5G? Why wasn't it British Telecom? Well, because British Telecom doesn't exist anymore, Graham. Yes, I know. Isn't that mad? Isn't that... Openreach, BT Openreach. We own all the cables and things like that. No, we don't actually. We've sold off everything. And it's one of the reasons why it's going to take so long to get Britain back on its feet. It's not just the fact that we've left the EU and we've been ruled by lunatics for the last God knows how long under the Tories. It's also the fact that we sold everything off. We sold off all the country's silver. And now we're sitting here in a big stately home that's drafty and cold, and there's cobwebs and there's eerie noises, and the paint's peeling off the walls, and the drapes are in tatters. And we're sitting there going, oh, why has this happened? Why? Where's all the money gone? It's because we gave it all away. We had a big jumble sale, and we gave everything away. We sold everything. At an absolute cut rate cost, and certain people made a load of money out of it. We didn't, and we never will. We need to get these industries back under state control. End of. Call me a communist. I don't care. But there you go. I'm really lucky. My bus route is every 8 minutes, but too expensive at £3. £3. It's ridiculous. So a family of four would be £12. £12 for one way. It's cheaper to get an Uber. There's 5 years. It's cheaper to get an Uber. Some of our pothole tracks have built in a 20-mile-an-hour limit. My partner hit one on a bike and broke a tailbone. Ooh, still hurting years on. No one accepted responsibility either. Yeah. Lipshin, what is that design on your t-shirt? It's Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, but it's the Rainbow Road from Super Mario Kart. I'm a nerd, what can I say? But I'm a rock nerd. Yeah. Subdivision. Yeah, bring on the rock nerds. Absolutely gutted that I only just found out that Pulper touring yesterday, and I realised a bit too late, and now the tickets are all sold out for all the standing tickets. And now you've got to be up in the gods and pay £100 each for the tickets, which I can't really afford at the moment, but never mind. Would love to go and see Pulp again. I love Pulp. They've got a new single out called Spike Island, which is about Stone Roses playing Spike Island in 1990. A gig that I did not go to because I would have been 11 at the time. A gig that Jarvis Cocker didn't go to either, but he was told about it afterwards and thought he'd write a song about it. And they've got a new album out called More, which is coming out in the summer, which I'm very excited about. 30 years on from the summer of Common People, and that summer was absolutely dominated by Common People, and by Country House and Roll With It, by Blair and Oasis respectively, by All Right, by Supergrass. The first Foo Fighters album came out in 95. So many good songs. I turned 30 this year, so it was a good summer. It was a really good summer. That was a really good summer. Tories were on the way out. Things were getting better. Berlin Wall had come down. Well, things seemed to be getting better. But, we relapsed. What can we say? We relapsed. Blue Badger, once the trains are back in state control, do you think the government will characterise it as a company portfolio feeding into the purse, or use it to gather all the services back in? I hope so. That would be great if they do that. What I personally want from the trains, okay? I want new lines putting in, because it takes 3 hours to get from Liverpool to Durham. 3 hours. It's quicker to get from Durham to London than it is to get from Liverpool, and it's not nowhere near as far away. It's quicker to drive. It is half an hour quicker to drive from Liverpool to Durham along the motorway, which you can only go at 70 miles an hour, and then along the bloody A66. Like, going through villages, it's quicker to go through Staindrop and Barnard Castle and Kirby Stephen. It's quicker to literally drive through villages to get from Liverpool to Durham than it is to take the train. That is mad. So what I want is dedicated passenger lines. So they don't need to be high speed. They can be 125 miles an hour, just like the normal intercity 125s that we've had for years and years and years. They're called 125s for a reason. That's the speed they go. That's fast enough for me. But I want them dedicated. I want them separate from the freight and the local services. So local services don't use the same lines as these faster trains, which all go at the same speed and all stop at the same stops and can go every 3 minutes if they want to, because they're all going at the same fucking speed. Right. And then on the old tracks, on the tracks that now have your local services on, which don't need to go very fast because they stop every 5 seconds, and also your freight services, I want there to be the slow train. And I want there to be a slow train to London. I want to pay £5 and I get the slow train to London. And you know what? It takes 6 hours, but I don't care because it only costs me £5. I want that slow train to London because it's just a passenger service that just goes, it stops everywhere along the way. You might get a seat, you might not get a seat, but it's only £5. Do you see? Just see what I'm saying here? Because, like, I am so sick and tired of paying, I mean, just an insane amount. If you are a family of 4 and you need to travel down to London because of an emergency, a bereavement or something, it's going to cost you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say that. It's £184 now each way. Not each way, to get there and back. They're not doing return tickets anymore. You've got to buy a one-way and a one-way. When you've got to use it on that train at that time, and got to be all stressed out all the time because you got to get to the station at that particular time for that particular train. It's so infuriating. So that's what I want. I want the HS2 to be built from London to Birmingham, but also at the same time, I want lines to be built from Birmingham to Manchester, Liverpool to Manchester, to Leeds, to Hull, and then a branch going up to Newcastle and down to Sheffield. I want all of those being built, right, alongside HS2. Because HS2 has taken up all this time, all this money, all this nonsense. We also need the electrification of a lot of train lines. I can't believe that so many train lines have not been electrified. The oldest line in the world, the oldest passenger line in the world that's still in use is between Liverpool and Manchester. It's a central line that goes from, it's not called the central line, but I call it the central line because there's a northern line, there's a central line, middle line. Let's call it the middle line, and then there's a southern line. The middle line, the one that goes through Broad Green Station, if you know stuff about Liverpool, goes through St Helens, I think. That one, not the one that goes through Warrington, that's the southern one, and the one that goes through Wigan is the northern one, but that's got buffers, so you can't do the whole trip. The middle line was only electrified like 10 years ago, and that line was put in the 1830s. It was like it took them like 180 years to electrify that line. I mean, you're just looking at that going, what the hell? What is even happening right now? We've got the stuff, we can do it. We've got the tools, we've got the talent. It doesn't run through a level crossing at any point. That line, it's all graded. It's either above the traffic or below. Stephanie, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Woo! Have a good day, all. Sorry, I just went off on one about public transport because it's a subject close to my heart. But thank you so much to Stephanie there. That is really kind of you, Stephanie Jeffries, sorry. Have a good day. You have a good day as well, Stephanie. You have a great day. You have a great day. Okay, so I'm going to piss off now and spend the day. It looks absolutely glorious out there. So I'm going to go and frolic in the autumn mist. In the summer springs, the spring summers. I'm just going to go outside and enjoy the sunshine while it's sunny. Get myself some vitamin D. And yeah, that's it. Okay, so until next time, I'll just say thanks for watching. We need to sort out the privatisation of this country. We need to renationalise everything. It was never about efficiency. Scunthorpe is a perfect case study. Foreign owner, cash extraction, service collapse, emergency renationalisation. We're seeing the same pattern across rail, water, post, energy, buses. We need democratic public ownership, not just for equity, but for survival. If Labour won't do it, then someone else will have to. Or we can just force Labour to do it, I guess. Should we do that? Should we force Labour to do it? I think we should. Okay, so thanks very much for watching. Sometimes it feels like we're kids being told stories by our fun uncle Phil and Graham. Lol. Fun uncle, yay. I'm a funkle. Grimfang says, I really want to explore the north, but as you were saying, it's expensive to go more than the county. Yeah, which is ridiculous. Imagine just having a network of slow trains. Overnight trains even. You sleep on them. I mean, they don't need to have beds. You could just have reclining chairs. You sleep on a plane, don't you? You don't have a bed on a long distance. Just recline your seat. You know, on an overnight bus. I get the overnight bus to London lots because it only costs £10 instead of, 157. Okay, so that's it for now. I should be back tonight. Hopefully, fingers crossed. All being well. Technical problems be damned. At 9 o'clock. So 9 o'clock tonight. I should be back with an episode of Stateside where we'll be talking about that orange creep over the pond, who I have not mentioned today on today's show because didn't want to. Hate talking about him. But I guess we have to. Because this is the world in which we live. Okay, so thanks very much for watching. Thanks for hanging on. I've got over the hour mark now, so that's good because we're a bit late getting started. So thanks so much for the super chats. Really appreciate it. Thanks to all the people who contributed to the chat as well, or socialites. If you'd like to join them in our chat in the future, just hit the subscribe button because it's subscribers only. And if you'd like to join the channel, that is always an option, and it really, really helps us out. It gives you a little rose next to your name, like what Anne Phillips has got there. And yeah, if you can join us tonight, that's great. If not, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, Morning Brew with me, Graham Hughes. And until then, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.